Welcome to Watching the Throne.
A lyrical analysis of the one and only Kanye West.
Oh, yeah. My name's Chris Lambert.
My name is Travis Bean, and before we even get into this episode, Chris, I got to ask you a question. This is a two-part question, by the way, so don't answer too quickly after I finish the first part. A, okay. Are you a pure soul? And B, do you think I'm a pure soul? Go.
I would say yes, and I would say yes. In the sense of this song. In the sense of not this song.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And no.
I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I think over the course of this episode, as we unpack what exactly a pure soul is, in relation to Kanye and just like the world in general, I think I'll have a better grasp on what you mean.
Oh, yeah. So you're saying that we set up a hook to get people interested in where we're going with this analysis.
Yeah. Oh, God. This would be the first time in Watching the Throne history that anyone's hooked by one of these episodes in the beginning.
They're like, have they finally figured out how to record a podcast? Have
yeah, 219 episodes in. This is the day we get it.
Here we go. Is it that? Yeah, here it goes. Well, here it goes.
Here it goes. You know? Oh, man. You're right. Here we go.
So, Pure Souls. We got track number 21 of 23 on Donda.
Gosh.
We are so close.
Are you sure about that? Is that right?
That's right. Unless we want to throw in Life of the Party, Up from the Ashes.
Never Abandon Your Family. Maybe in a distant future.
Yeah, I was telling people for the Donda 10th anniversary, we'll maybe do that. Speaking of which, happy 11-year anniversary to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Quick shout outs to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. If you're listening, congrats on the 11 years of being a GOAT album.
Yeah, and happy 3-month anniversary to Donda. I mean, coming up on 3 months anyway.
That's true, right? We're almost there. So Donda album.
What do you think the bigger accomplishment is, the 11 years or the 3 months?
I mean, at this point in the game, maybe the 3 months.
I think
it's
so.
Just we never know when Ye's gonna scrap a project. Like
exactly.
Look at Yandhi. We could be celebrating Yandi's 3-year anniversary, but no.
And if you guys keep hating on television, Kanye might just up and take Donda off all streaming platforms, and you'll never have it again. So be careful. I
would be so sad about that. He takes off every other song except television, and that's it. He's like, okay. You want it?
If Kanye did that, I would not be sad. I'd be very happy and ecstatic and think it's hilarious because I have all the songs anyway. So because I bought the album, and now everyone has to be punished for trashing on television.
It would be the most petty shit I've ever seen anyone do, but it would be hilarious.
I'd love it.
So Pure Souls, we are coming up on really what's like a huge payoff in everything that we had talked about up to this point. Like we've talked about how the album's essentially divided into everything before Heaven and Hell and everything after Heaven and Hell. And in the early portions, there's a lot of like back and forth and struggle and tension as Ye is essentially in that spot where he's reacting to everybody and has like confidence and ego, but maybe that bravado is in some ways a last resort because he is so kind of in a darker place, upset about things, like struggling emotionally, which is all stuff he contextualizes when you get to Jesus Lord and New Again and Lord I Need You. He's kind of starting to put into perspective some of the ways in which he was feeling in the early portions of this album. And it just production-wise, we've noted how it has a darker soundscape to it, a little bit heavier of a soundscape to it, as opposed to some of these like brighter, more gospel-y songs that are coming through from Donda through No Child Left Behind, where you can sense just sonically that upswing in emotion, in tempo, and energy. So there's a contrast between that first part and the second part, and we had talked about the arcs that are involved in that. Like arc 1 goes from Donda Chant through Hurricane. Arc 2 is Praise God through Believe What I Say. Arc 3 is 24 through Heaven and Hell. Arc 4 is Donda through Tell the Vision. And then the final arc, the fifth and final arc, is Lord I Need You through No Child Left Behind, where Ye, after deciding that he's like putting the demons and the devil behind him, that he's going to focus on God, that he's going to be decidedly different and not afraid in the way that his mom taught him to be, that his spirit's going to be kept alive, that he's going to like reconnect with Jesus and be saved, that he's going to be made new again so he can tell the vision. Like Lord, I Need You is this payoff song on all of that in terms of like giving over and finding some closure and giving up control. And then Pure Souls is really the like moment where Ye is made new again in that way that he asked to be made new again and had talked about at several times in this album of like, you know, God's not finished, he'll like save you, he's going to do work. Like Pure Souls is really where like that payoff occurs, as we even have him like saying like, it ain't how it used to be, this is the new me, so get used to me. Like he's straight up telling us this is the new me in a way that he wasn't saying on New Again, where he's like, make me new again, make me new again. He's asking. And now here he's telling us, yeah, I'm new again, this is the new me. This is the most up-tempo song on the entire album, I think, in terms of just like bounce and joy and excitement. And Ye is really celebratory in a lot of ways and has this like infectious confidence and like joy that you don't get from some of the other songs on this album. So Pure Souls is like quite a payoff in terms of the larger approach to like demeanor and life and confidence and ego. With like Come to Life, I think is the payoff in a lot more of the like personal and internal aspects, like the small world stuff, like the close to your heart kind of stuff. But Pure Souls is the payoff in terms of the macro story, like Ye in the world and how Ye is going to move through the world.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you called Pure Souls the most joyous sound of the album. You might technically be right, but in my household, that's remote control. That song starts going, we start bouncing around, bouncing off the walls in this place. We love it here in the Bean household. But Pure Souls, like totally, it's, I mean, the name alone, Pure Souls.
Oh yeah.
Like,
right.
Just, it's such a, like the name itself signifies that it's a payoff on everything that's been building on the album, especially when you compare it to that soundscape you were describing in like the first act. How heavy and monotonous and ambient a lot of songs like Jail, God Breathed, Off the Grid, Hurricane are. But also just like the antagonism you see on, we would argue at the end of Jonah, he's going after Drake. And then OK is clearly going after Drake. And then extremely controversially, we said he's going after Drake on Junior. A lot of people did not agree with that, but we saw it. And then going after Kim, I believe what I say. Like Pure Souls is a song where he's really letting all of that energy go. Even though he talks about squaring up and sending it up, like we'll talk about it in this episode, that there's a spirituality to that statement. Like he's suddenly transcending this idea of there being any sort of infighting and like, no, we all work together in the name of God now. Like the song is pure soul. Like the song is just so pure in that way. And the soundscape matches it. Like the organs are out front and heavy. There's not really any heaviness to the song in a way you could pretty much find on every other track. Like even Remote Control, it's kind of heavy in the way that like Kanye starts out egotistical and then realizes in the middle of the song, like, oh wait, no, I need to let God take control. Like there's a journey that happens there, but Pure Souls, like the journey has been a build to this state he's now in. He's now a pure soul. He's now ready to just, you know, move forward in the name of God, and who cares what Drake says, because Drake and I are on the same side and we're both fighting for good.
Yeah, instead of that middle portion, as you noted, being where Ye is kind of falling prey to some of the like conflict aspects, where he's like, oh, I'll fight you, I'm gonna stand my ground, I'm gonna be like caught up in this petty kind of stuff. Which you kind of see him caught up in some of the petty stuff and like Off the Grid, and sure. Hurricane's a little more reflective and serious, but you have that stretch where he's just kind of not looking to be a leader necessarily for everyone else, but it just kind of focused on like, what did you say to me? Like, never speak to me or my son ever again, kind of like energy. But yeah, here it's just like, no, I'm moving past all of that. Like, I'm going to lead the way for all of us. Like, hop aboard the Ye train and like off we go. It's gonna be
chugga
great.
chugga choo choo. Here we go.
Yeah, and we talked about this in terms of it's also a huge payoff in the one of the sub themes. That's not subplot, is it the right word? What's a secondary theme?
I guess it's I guess you could say sub theme.
A sub theme of the album as being Ye looking at street life and like affiliations and gang affiliations, and talking about the problems of that kind of thing, where you hear him first start to mention it, or that topic first starts to come up in Off the Grid, and then it takes center stage on Jonah, where you're talking about gun violence, where you're talking about like street life and street affiliations, and how that can really compromise things, where you're trying to like get away from that life, or even when you get away with it or from it, you can get swept back into it. There's consequences to that are truly life and death that Jonah really explores. Okay, you see some of that antagonism rising. It's something that's talked about on Keep My Spirit Alive by West Side Gun and Conway the Machine. Yeah. And then Jesus Lord has that compelling story where Ye details this family that's affected by gun violence, and the older brother of a younger brother that's killed seeking revenge, and how this becomes a cycle and cyclical. And he wants to kind of move people away from this. He doesn't want people to keep falling prey to this cycle of violence and this cycle of like a lessening of potential, right? Where that older brother could have gone on and maybe done a ton of great things for his family, but instead falls prey to this urge for violence. And then Pure Souls, as we're going to get into, really pays off on a lot of like talking about affiliation and street life, and Ye trying to point in a better direction for things, and that it doesn't have to be this violence, that it doesn't have to be this antagonism between groups, that there can be a purification of the grudges that people have in those groups, and there can be something that's larger than the names that you've been affiliated with and the good that can come out of that.
Yeah, and Kanye, I mean, you've noted at all the different points in the album where this has been such a motif, the idea of gay life and this infighting that goes on. But the payoff, like what Kanye is so great at, is he's really made that, he's taken that very prominent part of Black life, of American life, of just what a lot of people deal with in this country, and makes it very personal. He makes it part of this personal journey he's on. And there are all these different characters in his life that are involved in that stuff. And it all comes back, that leaves him to reflect on himself and think like, how do I play a part in this? Like, what are the problems we see here, and how can I transcend this? How can I move beyond this? And how can I guide people toward a better direction? It's not necessarily about like, oh, let's just all stop fighting, guys. It's about changing yourself. It's about becoming one with God. It's about becoming part of this community. It's about being part of a larger mission that transcends all these dumb little things that you've been made to fight over your time here on Earth. And I think that's a big part of this song, is Kanye's really talking about that from a celebrity perspective. Like that's part of the song, like rising up in music and having this reach and being able to influence people, but also then just looking at the very real world, like how you grew up as a kid and all of those people you grew up with, and how you all start from the same place and you can all make it to the same place. Like just because Kanye's famous doesn't mean like you can't be as spiritual as him, that you can't make the kind of spiritual impact that Kanye does. And I think he's just trying to guide people that way. And that's the point of Pure Souls. It's the payoff and all that stuff you're talking about.
Yep. It's fascinating. Like I love the song just in terms of like the bop aspect to it, but just as a payoff for this theme that we have noted developing over the course of the album and the course of the podcast, and I think has been, at least to me, the biggest insight we've gained doing the podcast season on Donda. that Pure Souls becomes such a climactic song and such a payoff in that way that it's really like great.
Oh, totally. Like, this is the reason we do the show. Like, all the stuff we've been talking about all season, like noting all of the narrative threads, the motifs, the common ideas relayed on each song. Like, we've noted them every time, and it's paying off right now. You're seeing it in the flesh. Like, we're going to go through line by line through Pure Souls, and everything is just commenting on everything we've talked about all season. And that's, I agree. I was really excited to talk about this song because kind of coming into it, I don't want to say I put Pure Souls like towards the bottom of the songs I like on Donda. But after I read through the lyrics and was kind of thinking about how I thought about this song and like what it was doing, I was like, man, this song's doing everything. Like, it's kind of the most interesting of all the songs. So now it's just a balance of like, do I like listening to it as much as I think it's interesting? Regardless, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, like it has a lot to respect just in terms of what it adds to the overall listening experience of Donda.
Let's get into it.
Whether it's in our top 5 or not. So Pure Souls, it initially had a sample, a piano instrumental from Roy Hargrove, Strasbourg Saint Denis, which is recent. It's not like an old standard. It's from 2008, but I guess it's become kind of popular. It didn't end up making the final album. It's one of the songs. It was this, and I forget what the second one was. Was it Okay Okay? Where there were more instrumentals to it, like, or a sample like this, and they got removed and the organs got put in their place. And there were people that were early on saying, like, I hate that he replaced it with the organs, bring back the actual like sample or instrumental. Yeah, right. I completely forgot that was a thing, but I like the organs.
Oh yeah, I think it sounds great. I mean, again, we're talking about like the payoff in this album, the spirituality of the album. What bigger payoff is there in a song like Pure Souls and organs up front and heavy and just like, I don't know. It sounds great.
Yeah. So we start with Roddy Ricch and having some Kanye in the background vocals, but Roddy Ricch starts with Life Changed When You Famous. I remember back before the chains, we was nameless. And life changing when you're famous makes sense, right? Which is really the entirety of what Late Registration is getting at, even like College Dropout in some respects. But Roddy Ricch himself grew up in Compton. He's only 23 years old, but grew up in Compton. Wikipedia says he spent some time in Atlanta. He got to rap for Kendrick Lamar when he was just 12 years old. When like Roddy was 12, not when Kendrick was 12. But
wouldn't be that impressive.
Right? Just like, okay, you're rapping at some random 12-year-olds that happen to be Kendrick Lamar. Ricch was a member of the Park Village Compton Crips, and he's won a Grammy, which is going to become relevant in a few lines. But so far, he's dropped one main album, and his second one is announced, but no one knows when it's coming out. Live Life Fast, Travis. Live Life Fast.
Is that advice you're giving me or the name of the album?
A little bit of both, you know?
Okay. All right. Well, I'm a Fast and Furious fan, so I already lived that way, but good to know.
Maybe Roddy is too. Maybe that's something you can meet Roddy and be like,
yeah,
Fast and Furious. And he'll be like,
I think he's just trying to get on the soundtrack.
Oh, I mean, is that even a bad like business decision at this point? Like, you know, there's going to be another Fast and Furious movie. Actually, did they say the next one's the last one?
It was always destined to be the last one, or it has been for a few years.
Okay, so F10 is the finale. Damn.
So yeah, he's got to get in there. This is his last chance.
Right? Okay. Hopefully it works out for him.
There'll be plenty of spin-offs, I'm sure, but you want to get in with like the actual Fast game, don't you?
You would hope so. Like, you want to become friends with The Rock. Well, that's not the Fast Gang anymore, is it?
No, he's part of the spin-off series now.
Yeah, sorry, Vin. You want to get in with Vin.
Vin's all that matters. If you want to be part of anybody, if you want to get on anybody's good side in the Fast and Furious universe, the Funiverse, it's got to be Vin Diesel.
Yeah. He's the main man, you know?
He's dad.
Except in Fast 3.
He's my dad. Is that what people say on Twitter?
I mean, I think they stopped. I think that was more like a 2019, 2020 thing. Or 2018 to 2020. Oh, do you?
It probably was more prominent then, but I still see it once in a while, and it still unsettles me every time.
It cracked me up so much that people would just be like, Dad, Dad, Dad. Like, what a silly
I don't get
thing,
it, but hey,
just
go for it.
Mass tweet under somebody's like tweet. Okay. But I remember back before the chain, we was nameless. Before the chains, we was nameless, which, you know, usually in the hip hop space, once you've made it, or one of the signs that you've made it is you get your chain, right? Mm-hmm. Which Ye talked about a lot on like College Dropout and Late Registration, talking about like getting his chain, like the time that he gives his chain back is when he gives back the game. So it's just like, yeah, when you don't have your chain, you're essentially nameless. But when you get your chain, everybody kind of knows your name at this point. Like Roddy Ricch is known, but he had to get his chain first. And then given where like the line goes, like open up your eyes, they only entertainers, I cannot sell my soul. You can maybe start to make some connections between like the idea of like chains and selling your soul and corporate America and all of that. But at least like the most straightforward top level of the line is just before you get your chain for joining a label or just having success, you're nameless.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the whole intro as a whole, it's a great lead into the song, I think, because Roddy's talking about how easy it is to idolize entertainers, to think that like achieving superstardom is the ultimate goal. But even when you're a superstar, like you're still human, and that's what he's realizing. Like, man, they only entertainers. Like, you don't necessarily need to prop them up like that, and just because you're like this giant entertainer doesn't mean like you suddenly don't have to answer for yourself. Like, you're still human. You still have to face yourself in the morning. You still have to go out and make a difference in the eyes of God. So you can't sell yourself to become famous because yourself is all you have, you know. And that's a great lead into the rest of the song, where like the idea of becoming a pure soul, like being somebody who is just on the side of good. You don't choose sides. You just fight for something greater. You fight for what God put us on earth to fight for, you know, like achieving spirituality.
And you can't like sell your soul just to like corporate interests, corporate entities. It's
Right.
like also setting up that idea of like contrast, right? There are artists that sell their souls.
Yes.
There are artists that like make mistakes and like fall prey to like these pitfalls and et cetera, et cetera. You can't just idolize anyone simply because they're an entertainer, because as you're saying, entertainers are still humans, and some can be good, some can be bad, some can like mess up, which you even have Ye coming in the background vocals when Roddy's saying like, and I cannot sell my soul, saying like, Jesus saved my soul. And we know that
Right.
Ye himself has said in interviews, like, I used to work for the devil. I was making music for the devil. Now I make music for God. Now I work for God. So I think it might be getting at kind of a similar thing. It also makes you think of New Slaves, right? And like throw in some Maybach keys and the idea of like becoming like in the chains of these corporate entities who you sign contracts to. And like Roddy just essentially saying like, yeah, like these entertainers can sell their souls. They can get like caught up in chains, like due to the money, due to everything. But like, I'm not going to let that happen to me, which also sets up like Ye and Ye's like purification of his soul on this album.
Yeah.
And, like we know his journey of getting out of his contract, which he says he's out of his contract now. I don't know how true that is or isn't. Nobody's like shown paperwork being like, yeah, his contract's over. But in the Drink Champs interview, he was saying that he's now like free of his contract and he's kind of unshackled in terms of no longer making music for the devil in that way. So there, it starts to get at like a lot of things relevant to Ye and just also a lot of generalities about the music industry.
Yeah, like you're right. Kanye says Jesus saved my soul, and in Roddy Ricch's verse, he's gonna say like, I hope God can forgive me for the days that I was sinning. So it's not even necessarily that like, oh, I was always destined to be this great thing and I never sold my soul in my pursuit of that. It's almost like they're both acknowledging that like they did have some missteps along the way of like achieving superstardom. But as you get closer to the top, or maybe when you get at the top and you realize the power you have and that, you know, you're still human, that your priorities shift and you kind of rethink the way you approach things and you start doing things in the name of God.
You know, not selling your soul anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, Roddy even says that third line went through stages just to hop on new stages, which I like a lot. Like you can view it as industry stuff. Like you go through these like smaller stages just to get onto the bigger stages. Like you're performing at like the local level in like school gymnasiums or at 30-person bars before your opening act for a huge artist or headlining a big festival. So you talk about those stages, but then also you go through the stages of life, right? You have to grow and mature as a person in order to get onto these newer and bigger stages. So you're having that duality of industry talk, but also just like personal growth and personal reflection.
Yeah, I like that.
So then open up your eyes, man. They only entertainers, and I cannot sell my soul. And they only entertainers also gets at some of the criticism that Roddy levels towards Ye in the verse that we'll get at the backstory of as well. But getting into the verse, we have actually, before we get into the verse, Roddy on the song The Box, which he got nominated for like 3 Grammys for this song. It was a pretty huge song for him. But in the chorus, he starts talking about like, pulling out the coupe at the lot, told him like F12, F SWAT, busting all the bells out the box. I just hit a lick with the box, had to put the stick in the box, pour up the whole damn seal. I'm gonna get lazy. I got the mojo deals. We've been trapping like the 80s. I won't never sell my soul, and I can back that. So he just declares in that chorus, amongst just like the other stuff that he's talking about in terms of like lifestyle and attitude, I won't never sell my soul, and I can back that, which I like how the Genius annotation, somebody points out it's a double negative, saying that he's already sold his soul or is going to. And it's like, no, he's just using the double negative for like extra emphasis, right? Like, right. I'm not just never going to sell my soul. I won't never sell my soul. Like, yeah, it's right. Like, that's how determined he is to never sell his soul. So there he's declaring, like, I won't ever do it. And now here he's saying, like, I cannot. Like, I'm so determined to not sell my soul that it's not even a question of, like, will I or won't I? It's just, I can't. Like, that's how, like, determined and pure I am.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool aspect of the song because we'll get into it, but Roddy Ricch and Kanye West had fought a little bit online, or at least Roddy Ricch fought with Kanye. And they were seemingly at odds, but here on this song, they really seem to be in line with each other and related with each other on some of the struggles they had and what they've had to overcome. And then ultimately what their purpose is here, like at the top, like having a influence in the music genre, in the music industry. So I really like that aspect of the song. Like I picture them doing the Predator handshake and like heading into the studio, just like ready to like knock one out of the park.
Well, yeah, that makes it very fitting that Roddy's on the song, right? It's not like he's bringing like Ruga into the song or Vori, Little Durk, like any of these other artists that he was like 5EO that he seemingly was either cool with or had no previous history with, that he's bringing on someone that he apparently had like a spat with online into a song where he's talking about like
a spat,
Moes and folks and like, yeah, like Drake and being purified and like pure souls. It's very fitting to like make amends with Roddy and show like, hey, there's no ill will. He said this, I'm still featuring him on a song and like an important song. See, like this is what I'm talking about in terms of like not letting the little stuff get between us and lifting each other up and supporting each other. So
love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what you're talking about with the a little bit of beef. So there's this article on Hip Hop DX that recaps, written by Mark Elibert. Sounds close to Lambert, so great job, Mark.
So now he's your mortal enemy? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's right. It's either like you feel a connection or you feel like warfare. But so it happened in September of 2020 when Ye peed on his Grammy. You may remember he put a Grammy in a toilet and pissed on it and posted the video to Twitter. And he was very upset. And it turned out in the Drink Champs interview, he noted that it was Stronger. It was specifically the Grammy for Stronger. And it was specifically a Grammy he picked where nobody else was named on it. Like, Mike Dean won a Grammy for Stronger. Like, Stronger won a few Grammys, but this was one he didn't want anybody else's name to be on it because he didn't want to disrespect that person or include that person in what he was doing. So he talked about, like, I wanted one that just said my name on it so nobody else was involved. It was a Stronger Grammy. But when he pissed on it, you had so many people that were just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, look at him calling out the Grammys for, like, not being cool. And you remember that, like, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy didn't even get nominated for Album of the Year. It didn't get nominated for anything. Watch the Throne didn't win Album of the Year. Like, Yeezus lost to Macklemore. It just all this, like, nonsense with the Grammys. And while most people were kind of celebrating the Grammys getting called out or just finding humor in it, Roddy was on Instagram Live and just called it lame. And was a little upset about what Ye did. And he didn't quite get into it. I think he just kind of mentioned that it was lame and not cool. And he clarified in an interview with Big Boy. He said, I feel like what I was saying, I needed to gather my thoughts more and say it how I wanted to say it. What I was saying was I grew up looking to Kanye or Jay as, like, if I do this, I grew up looking to, I want to have 27, 30 Grammys because that's what they did. When I see him pissing on a Grammy, it kind of rubbed me wrong because I was like, damn, now that I'm getting nominated, I feel like everybody's shitting on the accolades. So this is essentially, here, Roddy continued. Now it's like it don't even matter. Now that I look back on it, it's like I don't really give a fuck about it like that. But in that moment, that's more so what I was thinking. No disrespect to Kanye because he's a legend. He's the guy. I pulled up on him. We chopped it up. So it ain't no disrespect to him. He also said, if I get nominated for 6 Grammys and a guy I look to that had 22, 23, 24, 25 of these, and I come in here, I get nominated for 6 this year, I feel like that's a good number, Roddy said in a rant. And this year, this guy just pissed on this. Like, how you think that make the world look at my accomplishment? I did all this and you pissing on it. That shit be lame. I don't really like that shit. Okay. So they keep the context of what Roddy said to the very end of the article. I take back everything I said, Mark. You lead with the context. Like, put
I
that
would say
quote
that's pretty crucial.
up front. Yeah. Put that up front. So essentially, that's
Mortal
what
enemy.
That's what Roddy was getting upset about. That now that he's getting nominated for Grammys, like, it was important to Ye back in the day, but now that Ye's won all of his Grammys, his pissing on them, which is devaluing the value of devaluing the Grammy to all the artists that are currently getting nominated. Yeah. So that's why Roddy was getting pretty annoyed by it. He's like, how am I supposed to celebrate this when you're pissing on it and ruining what it's going to mean when I win one, when the next person wins one? Right. But he and Kanye got together, they worked it out, and he elaborates on it in the verse here, which we'll get to in a second. But that's more of the backstory.
Kanye history right there.
Yeah. I can imagine somebody being like, same way you're complaining about Mark not mentioning the Roddy quote at the beginning, maybe you should have mentioned that at the beginning of the song,
Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't spend the first 20 minutes of your show talking about Patrick Swayze in the Fast and Furious movies.
Well, I agree, but at least we did save it for the end of the show.
That's true. We want you to get that kind of content up top, because if it's at the end of the show, you might miss it.
Yeah, right. Because nobody listens till the end.
Oh God, I would just be amazed if one person on this earth made it to the end of any of our episodes.
I know that special person's out there. Okay, so we get Roddy starting the verse with, I've been at the top shining like a light pole. So, yeah.
Sometimes lines can be simple.
Yeah. You just see a street light, and at the very top of the pole is the light. So
there's a light up there. It's shining.
Yep. He's shining at the top. And Roddy has had a lot of success in the last few years with Feed the Streets mixtapes doing really well and his first album doing well. So, and he's been featured on a ton of stuff. So, so he follows up that line with success of, and I'm just a product of whatever I was raised in. So it's just like, yeah, look at me. Like, I was raised, I mean, he grew up in Compton, right? Which a lot of people view Compton as a troubled place, a problematic place. Even the artists that make it out of there, looking at Dre, looking at Kendrick, who talk about it in their music, talk about like the drama of the place, the danger of it, also the humanity of it, right? Like the beauty of it. But you're getting a lot of the, oh, Compton's like such a dangerous place. Mm-hmm. But Roddy's saying like, yeah, I'm a product of what I was raised in, which is often like used as, I want to say, kind of like a euphemism. Like, oh, this troubled youth is just a product of their environments, mm-hmm. right? For how somebody is the way that they are in negative terms, right? But here Roddy's saying like, no, I'm from Compton and I'm a product of Compton and I'm shining at the top of the light pole. Like, you know, I wasn't held back. I wasn't ruined by where I came from. Like, it made me stronger in the same way that Ye and other artists talk about how where they grew up, right, made them stronger, made them smarter, made them work harder, made them like want it more than some of the people that grew up in better environments, right? Yeah. So being a product of your environment, wherever you grow up, can be both a good thing and a bad thing. It depends more on the person than actually the environment.
Yeah, it's a great preview of the whole verse because you're right, like that, you know, they're just a product of their environment. Like, that's a classic line to use negatively, but he's using it, as we'll see soon, positively. I mean, you know it's positive because he's talking about like, I at the top shining like a light pole, and I'm just a product of where I was raised in. Like, he's basically saying where I was raised led me to becoming this light pole that's shining above you. Like I like being in this environment, like it isn't just like, it can, I guess it could drag you down. It can lead down some bad roads, but it can also inspire you to rise out of it, to do something great, to transcend that. I feel like immediately that's what he's getting at. So he set up this verse to show how he raised out of it and what state he's in now that he has risen out of that environment, to show that like, I'm a product of what I was raised in. Like, when you're living in this environment, like this is what it drives you to do. Like, you have even more ambition and more drive to accomplish something.
Which, you know, resonates with things that Vori said, resonates with things like Dirk and Conway, and most of the guest features on this album have talked about in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So you're getting that connection between the verses. And then saying the money's sanctified, so I got to say it again, which, you know, sanctified, it's blessed, it's God-given. Like, it's just kind of showing that this isn't just me doing this, but like God had a hand in this.
Yeah, it feels like it fits in with the title of the song, you know, like what I've done with my career, like it's pure, like it's sanctified. It was all in the name of God.
And he goes like, so the money's sanctified, so I got to say it again, as in like, okay, let me repeat myself since the money's like blessed and good. They said I was mad at the Grammys, but I'm looking at my Grammy right now, which this is getting at the fact that even though, okay, so Roddy Ricch got nominated for 6 Grammys the one year and won 0 of them. And apparently that's where it was coming from, that he was mad at the Grammys. But he's also saying, like, I'm looking at my Grammy right now. Like, I've already won a Grammy. Like, I'm proud of the Grammy that I won. Like, it's okay. So he's kind of dispelling this argument that people were making about him, and putting that to rest. I saw someone on Genius was trying to make that there's a double entendre with, like, grandma. And, like, you know, like, people thought I was mad at the Grammys, but I'm looking at, like, my grandma right now. Like, maybe, but it's probably
I don't even
not.
think maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going on.
Appreciate the effort.
So, yeah. But then the Grammy connects to Ye, right? Pulled up on Ye, and I said they don't understand me. I just want my dog to pipe down. And I feel like this verse or those lines are meant well, but I still take them as like, that still doesn't sound like right. So pulled up on Ye is kind of starting to refer to the fact of him calling Ye out, right? Like I pulled up on Ye, like I called him out. But then also like I went to Kanye, like I went to visit him and I was like, yo, they don't understand what I'm saying. Like they're saying I said this, they're thinking I came at you when I wasn't really coming at you. I just wanted you to pipe down a little bit, but I feel like you don't tell Kanye to pipe down. Right? You're not like, hey, Kanye, please don't say that.
He must be talking to like, you know, the way it's written in the press, the way people are describing it on social media, like it makes it sound like Roddy Ricch was really pissed and calling out Ye, when really he was just like, man, like I'm trying to win a Grammy here and you're pissing on it. Like, don't do that. So maybe he's just saying like, that's why he pulls up on Ye. That's why he's talking to Ye. And that's ultimately why they connect in the song, is like, maybe that's where they connect. Like the media kind of rewriting what you say and trying to paint you a certain way, when, you know, when you just talk face to face with somebody, you're allowed to criticize them, but you aren't necessarily being mean and antagonistic towards them.
Yeah, it seems like it's like mixing together those things, right? It's getting at the idea that like he pulled up on Ye while also getting at the idea that he went to visit Ye. And it's one of those things like he was being critical of Ye. Like I don't like, I'm not telling you to shut up, just like, you know, don't like take away from what I'm achieving. It's what he said in his interview with Big Boy, right?
Right.
But then he talked about how he's kind of moved past that. And I think he's getting at that now, as you're saying, they're connecting over the fact that he's misunderstood, that he's being taken out of context. And it's kind of like, okay, like I was coming at you, but now I have a better understanding of what you were saying. And I'm connecting with you on that larger level now.
Yeah, I think so.
But then the next three lines, I think, kind of summarize what he was saying when he was talking to Big Boy about, you know, Ye and Jay won their Grammys, and that made me want to win Grammys. And I think that's important, that like you show others the way. So, you know, when you really came from the trenches, like Roddy did, when Ye did, you was raised in the trenches, like Roddy was and Ye was, you feel like you trailblazed for the trenches, which is what he's saying. Like Jay and Ye showed me what I'm supposed to do, and now I'm doing that. So I hope God can forgive me for the days that I was sinning. Which also gets at that, right? So it wasn't just like Ye won the Grammy and now I'm winning Grammys. It's like Ye showing me that I should like connect with God. I should bring God into music. I should like look to God to forgive me for my sins. It's getting at like multiple levels and layers. And that's why he ends with, I hope God can forgive me for the days that I was sinning. Like I like getting back to growing up in Compton, like he was part of the Crips in Compton. Like he's done some things in his past that I'm sure he wants forgiving for. But then as you were noting earlier, it kind of connects back to like Cannot Sell My Soul and some of the like industry stuff as well. So it's like Roddy's personal background and then industry drama as well.
Yeah, it's all about realizing how you serve as a model for others. Like ultimately, can you become this person that people who are in the trenches, wherever they are, whatever oppressed state they're in, can they look to you and say like, that's how you do it? Like, look at that pure soul. Look at that guy just rising up past all the bullshit and doing it. I feel like that's just a big part of what we're hearing from him in the intro, verse, chorus. Like that's really what he's contributing before Kanye comes in and kind of echoes a lot of the same stuff from his own perspective.
Yeah, and you're getting that dichotomy, right, of Roddy being like 23 and at the beginning of his career, and Ye being 44 and being just like 20 years into his career, and both of them having their unique perspectives. It's not all that different. It keeps reminding me in kind of the structure and setup of Touch the Sky, where Ye is talking about what he's achieved as an artist out of Chicago. And just like, I touched the sky. This is who I was when I was younger. Like, got to testify. And then he has, Lupe. It's Lupe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lupe. And Lupe's just like, that's his first major placement on an album, is on Touch the Sky. And he's a young kid from Chicago. And that's exactly who Kanye was. And Kanye, now having achieved the status that he had from the College Dropout, is already bringing up these other artists to be like, see, like, this is the next one. And he's doing a similar thing with Roddy here, of just like, Ye's in this stronger position talking about things from that while showing off this younger talents who's looking to like follow in the footsteps.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we already discussed it, but just putting it out there like, hey, I wasn't fighting with Kanye. Like, stop trying to paint us that way. And really getting at the infighting motif that's been going on throughout the album, and how like fighting's not good. Like, we just need to like talk. We need to get along. We need to like fight towards the same goal. And then again, it's a great lead into Kanye talking about Drake and his verse. It's just great how Roddy Ricch is able to like put all of that together here at the beginning. Like, it's mostly his song until Kanye comes in, and then I mean, I don't know, it's such a great like full song in that way. Roddy Ricch's part, then Kanye's part, then the outro. Like, it's such a unique song in that like it's all these different parts that all sound different and have their own styles, but all are getting at this cohesive message.
Yep. And then Trenches, pedantic me coming through, in case anybody's curious about like, why does he say trenches? I think just, in wartime, right? World War I specifically, like, you were in the trenches. Like, if you were at the front line, if you were in the fight, you're in the trenches that they would dig. And it was trench warfare, which was very like brutal and draining. Mm-hmm. And so that phrase, like, in the trenches, came from that. So now it's kind of like, if you're in the trenches, if you're on the front lines, if you're kind of like in the war, in this case, it would be like you're coming from the streets, you're coming from like lower income environments, like you're in the American trenches, so to speak, in the way that like middle class or upper class families wouldn't be. I think is what he's getting at with that word.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Okay. And then the chorus, maybe my favorite part, just the truth is only what you get away with, huh? And then you have Ye, I guess, coming through with the man, all these lying like, guys.
Yeah.
Which it kind of like frames like what he's talking about with the truth is only what you get away with. Like, you have all these people that are lying, and Roddy repeats with, I said the truth is only what you get away with. And that's why a lot of these guys be faking, huh? Made it through the trials and tribulations. Right. So there's some depth to this. Like, one, I think it's just getting at why a lot of these guys be faking, huh? It's like a lot of other rappers or like celebrities fake who they are. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this with like Instagram a lot, right? You'll see like couples post on Instagram like all these happy photos, and then they break up, and you're like, wait, all your photos, you look so happy. And it's like, well, yeah, because we'd take the photo and then would like fight and scream at each other.
Yeah.
And there's a presentation of self for the rest of the world that may not line up, which is something like hip hop artists have been accused of for a long time, right? Like, you're not as rich as you say you are. Like, you're bragging about like these nice cars and things, but you're driving around in a Ford Focus. Like, you're bragging about taking trips to like the French Riviera, but you don't even have a passport. Like, there's a lot of people that lie in their lyrics. And then you have others that might like act tougher in their songs. Like, I'll like kill you and sleep with your woman. It's like, will you? Yeah. So you just have people that be posturing, that are posturing in their lyrics a lot, and posturing in their presentation, like faking their lifestyle that they're living, and they're calling out that, right? So if you can get away with it, people will believe it's the truth. Like, they'll really think you're living the life that you're living, that you have the money that you have the attitude and demeanor and ego and bravado and like lifestyle that you say you have, when all of it might be like fake and a lie.
Yeah, but in reality, you're not a pure soul. Like, I feel like that's really, like, the truth is only what you get away with. Like, that feels like a very Kanye lie. Like, it's the most Kanye line, and he doesn't even say it. Because that's so true about Kanye. I mean, basically the line is saying, like, there are ways people present themselves that aren't honest or true. But if nobody knows you're lying, it becomes your truth, even though it's a lie. So, which is like a trippy way of thinking about it, but that's totally true. A lot of people live their lives like that. They believe like they're living their truth in that way when you're lying. And Kanye is like, he's the epitome of not doing that. He is somebody who just always speaks his mind, is always himself, is not worried about the consequences. And in that way, he's a pure soul. He's somebody who's just like, there's no bullshitting with him. Like, he tells you what he's fighting for, and he's fighting for it, and like, you can be on his side. And again, that's where him and Roddy Ricch are aligned. Like, that's why they've connected on the song. They're on the same wavelength with that.
Yep. There's another way of looking at it that you could like start to get deeper into in terms of like, you think about some social media stuff and people saying like, oh, this person did this or this person said this. Like, you can see headlines, right, that often don't necessarily portray what was said. Like, I think specifically to when Kanye was talking about abolishing the 13th Amendment, he was talking about the clause in the 13th Amendment that that allowed for prison slave labor, essentially. Right. So the 13th Amendment is what freed the slaves, but it added in a caveat that if you're like in prison, you can essentially make people do whatever you want or like work them in any way, which is why you can pay prisoners like 2 cents an hour to go and dig ditches or like build roads or something. So prison slave labor has become like a huge industry in America, and it's why for-profit prisons have started to become like such a thing. So Yace tries talking about that, and all of these headlines take it the wrong way and start talking about how like Kanye wants to abolish the 13th Amendment that got rid of like slavery, and why does Kanye want to like put slavery back into like America, all these things. And it's just like, that's not what he said, but who's holding them accountable for saying that that's what he said.
Right.
There was another, it's like when Sunday service, he was doing a Sunday service at like a church somewhere, and the church had a luncheon before the Sunday service, and it was $40 for the luncheon. And the sandwiches that you got were just like 2 pieces of white bread with like a little bit of tuna fish on it and a sad piece of lettuce and a few chips. And the plate of that food got posted to Twitter, and it was just like, this is what I got from the Kanye luncheon before Sunday service. And all these headlines, all these people were reacting to Kanye ripping off these people and using Sunday service as a grift and like fake Christianity and just a money grab. And it wasn't even a Kanye thing, right? That was purely the church. Like, Kanye had nothing to do with it. It was the church that organized that. It was the church that sold the tickets. It was the church trying to take advantage of the fact that they were having Kanye there. But it wasn't something that Ye did. But all of these people that said it was got away with it. And that truth started to, like, it was a wildfire through social media. It's a perspective people started to have of Kanye. There's people that still probably think it's true to this day because they saw the headline and there was no one to hold, like, the outlets or the people accountable. Like, they got away with the lie, and the lie became the truth. So you can maybe start trying to read that line in that way in terms of how like false presentations, like not only of yourself, but how people say things happened or what happened to you, which is what like Roddy was saying, and they don't understand me. Like, you can be misunderstood and the truth of what you're saying gets twisted by whatever someone else is saying, gets away with. Maybe you could start to go down that road with it. I don't think that's necessarily what the chorus is getting at. I think it's more just like people present themselves falsely and they can get away with that as long as no one's holding them accountable. But there's also that whole other conversation about social media and how it's and journalism and how it can falsely portray a situation and get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, all of that stuff is like naturally an extension of what he's saying, because he's saying him and Kanye aren't that way. Like, we live our truths and you see exactly who we are. Then naturally, the other side of that coin is everybody you call out in the song, like everyone who's faking it. And then, of course, you know, everything you mentioned of journalism and the way things are presented. It doesn't matter. All of that stuff doesn't matter. Like, you just have to be a pure soul, because the only person who can truly judge you is God. So as long as you're pure, like, you'll be fine.
Yep. And just stay focused, you know?
By the way, I got to say, for people watching the video, the sunlight is pouring into this room in a way, because I haven't been able to get blinds up in here yet. And the year's changing, the sunlight's changing, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's just a wash of light over me, which is fitting for this episode, I guess.
I'm going to have to check out this video. Hopefully it's like that when we record Come to Life and there's just like this aura about you.
It seems like, oh my gosh, it's so bright. I feel like I just blinded so many people watching the video.
Oh no. Well, keep it focused on the left side of the screen. I don't know.
I'm trying. I keep trying to move around and fix it, but it's very difficult.
Just ask Lauren to stand there holding a blanket in front of the window.
I'm going to scoot a little over this way so you could get a clear shot of my face. That'll be nice.
I can't wait to look at the video and be like, what is Travis talking about? And then be like, oh my God.
Oh dear God.
So then we have Ye coming in, right? And you also have, it should be noted, like Roddy saying made it through the trials and tribulations, which if we're looking at the guest features kind of being like as a whole, right? From Little Baby, like Fivio, Vori, Little Durk, Ruga, like West Side Gun, Conway, Roddy, to have Roddy saying like made it through the trials and tribulations. And he really is the last like feature on this album, aside from Vori, but that's not quite like a feature verse, right? It's just him,
right,
kind of repeating the chorus. There is something very powerful about that, because you're hearing all these younger artists that are trying to make it through the trials and tribulations and get ahead and establish themselves as successful artists, and like everything that comes with that, and having Roddy get to like celebrate it, like made it through the trials and tribulations, I'm never going to sell my soul, and kind of be the standard bearer for all of those voices. I think that's really powerful as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's a good point.
So then Kanye. Okay, we get him saying, well, here goes. Like, there's a lot of build up for it, right?
Yeah,
like,
I love
music
it.
kind of dies. Like, Kanye's like, all right, here goes.
He pays
Here
off.
it goes. Yeah, I was one of them weirdos of the pure soul. So,
Well, it takes him a little bit. He has to get past this line first, which is a strange way to start his verse.
yeah, and he doesn't like quite contextualize it. Like, because you would think that the next line is the thing that you're like, all right, so why is he a weirdo, and what's it mean to have a pure soul in this song?
Yeah.
And he just talks about like going to the flea market to buy fake clothes. And you're like,
I think it's a big build up to what he's talking about.
yeah, if like that's the thing. If you're just going like the immediate next line and then
Yeah.
taking away all the context of the rest of the verse,
Right.
then that's going to be left hanging as kind of a weird thing. Like, why is it weird to go to a flea market and buy fake clothes? Like, but he's kind of like taking us back to the past and explaining like who he was back at this time. And at this time, like, he didn't have a lot of money, right? He's like just going to flea markets to afford fake clothes because that's all he could afford at this time. So that, especially with the next line of every color Jabrod, and every cutlass is cold, makes you think that this is like kind of that 80s 90s period, right?
Right.
Kanye was born in 77, so we're kind of looking at like a teenage Kanye, or like late teens early 20s Kanye, before he's made it big, like before he has the money, when he's still in Chicago. Like, this is where we're at. And
Right.
in this time, he was a weirdo of the pure soul. And I think given how much this verse focuses on like mob ties, essentially, right? Like, out of all the Moes, out of all the folks, which that's getting into the shorthand, like Mo's is Black Pea Stones and Folks is GDs. Like the GDs, the Gangster Disciples being Larry Hoover's like group, and then the Black Pea Stones is something that Ye even talked about on Drive Slow, where he talks about how his friend Molly nicknamed him K-Rock. So the Stones would be like, all right, this guy's cool. He has like a Stone affiliated name, even though Ye himself wasn't necessarily affiliated. So he's talked about, even in the Drink Champs interview, how everybody he was friends with was like affiliated and he wasn't. So when it talks about like weirdos of the pure soul, I think that's what he's saying. Like, I was the odd man out back in the day because all of my friends, all of these like kids I knew, everyone else felt like they were affiliated, right? They were a Mo, they were a folk. And I was one of the weirdos that was just like a pure soul. I didn't have an affiliation. I wasn't leaning one way or the other. I wasn't part of that life. And that stood out a little bit. So that gets back to our earlier joke, right? Like, are we pure souls? Like, yeah, in the sense that like,
okay, good. We are.
We also never had affiliations. And then, but are we pure souls in the sense of just like, you know, have you ever lied? Have we ever cheated? Like, I cheated on a test before, you know?
Oh, I've cheated on several tests, but they were all biology tests. Like none of that mattered to my career, so it didn't matter.
Have I told this story on the podcast before about like being an orientation leader and getting into an argument with one of the religion professors at my college?
No, but please tell.
Okay, so I was an orientation leader at Case Western Reserve University, and we would have like 4 waves of students. Like 200 students would show up on campus, and they'd be broken up into groups, and I was one of the leaders of the group. And for 3 days, you kind of take them around to different events and answer questions, make sure they were like bonding and having a good time. It was a lot of fun. I liked meeting everybody, talking to everyone. It was a great way to like get some stage time, you know, but also we'd have to like get on stage and do like some skits and stuff. But
so literal stage time.
Literal stage time. A great way to like flirt. Like you meet a lot of the incoming girls, and you'd be like, "Hi, I'm Chris."
Yeah, these poor girls who don't know anything, like are trying to learn, and you're just hitting on them.
I know. Like in hindsight, I'm just like, oh man, like it's really tough to be a girl. At the time, I was just like, great. But one of the lessons that we would do like on day 2 was something about like cheating and the ethics of being at school, and they'd show some like 60 Minutes episode that had some like funny stuff about like cheaters and things, and then you'd have a breakout discussion. And one of the breakout discussions that we had was with one of the religion professors, and the guy gave an example of, say you're taking you're in a math class, and the professor tells you that you're not allowed to use calculators on the test. And they're sitting up front, but they're reading a book and not paying attention. And you look over and notice one of your fellow classmates is on their calculator. What do you do? And he looked at me and was like, Chris, what's the proper action here? I was like, okay. And there's like 40 freshmen, because it was like a few groups combined. And I was just like, well, if it's me, I'm just worrying about my test and that's it.
Yeah.
And the professor like shakes his head. He's like, really? That's your answer? That's your answer. I was like, well, yeah, it's none of my business. Definitely. I don't know what's going on in that kid's life. Like, you know, maybe he did study. Maybe he is just cheating. Maybe he'll be dumb, but like he's not always going to be able to use a calculator. But also, if he could figure out how to cheat on everything, like that takes some skill too and never get caught. But he's the one like putting in all the risk, and I don't think it's on me to report him. If the teacher makes the rule, the teacher should be like, so I'm saying all this stuff. And the religion professor is just like getting upset and goes, think about it this way. What if 10 years down the road, you're in a car crash and you need life-saving surgery? You're bleeding everywhere. You're taken to the hospital and you need this doctor that's going to save your life. And before they put you out on the operating table, you look and it's that same kid from math class. He's your doctor. Are you going to be comfortable with that? I just kind of like look around and I'm like, you're telling me this guy graduated from medical school? Like, yeah, I don't really care if he cheated on a math test as a freshman in college. Like,
That's not where I thought he was going with it.
no, I was like, if he managed to like graduate college without getting expelled for cheating and managed to graduate from medical school, like, I'm okay with it. Like, what's the alternative? Like, I turn him in and ruin his future.
So what
And
does your professor say to that?
He just started saying that that was like the morally and ethically incorrect way of going about it, and that he's surprised that someone that's an orientation leader would have that view on things, and was starting to like assassinate my character. And like, I'm like 19 years old, and this is like a 45-year-old man starting to tell me I'm an evil person. And finally, one of the kids from my orientation group spoke up. And it was just like, I think Chris is just trying to be respectful, and stole some of the guy's ire. So that was nice of him.
I can't imagine anybody in that group, a bunch of 18-year-olds, would agree with that professor very much.
I know. Like, I don't think anybody
Power trip
did. And he was kind of frustrated. Like, he was quiet the rest of the time.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, he felt like we were all going to hell, I'm sure.
And you are, but you know what? That day you were right.
Yeah. I was like, I was right. I was right. Anyway, so that's that story.
Yeah.
So Jabot was okay, wait. Go to the market to buy fake clothes, and every color Jabot, I can't say the Gerbeau, but it's a French clothing company, and their like high point was in the 90s. So they were selling like a lot of like jeans, I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that what it was? Just shirts, jeans, anything?
I think they were big for jeans.
Okay. And then every cutlass is cold. Like, I guess like you have Oldsmobile cutlasses that people were driving, and like they're looking cool in the cutlasses because they have money, which reminds me of like Drive Slow, right? Where he talks about his friend having some money and like driving this cool car, but mostly that's because his friend's like dad had passed away. But and then every cousin that stole every summer was cold. So he's just thinking about like some of these details from back then, the clothes, the cars. You were having like cousins or people that you knew that were just stealing just to get by. And every summer was like cold, and not cold necessarily in the temperature sense, but cold in the sense of just how people were like behaving, right. The emotion, the vibe, the atmosphere of the summer. Like, you know, it was a tense place to be in some respects.
Yeah. It contrasts Cutlass is cold, which is like a cool thing, with like the summer was cold, which is not so cool.
No, not at all. And I like that there's a genius annotation for every cousin that stole that's just getting into like the cousin that stole my laptop.
You don't even have to mention this, Chris.
Talks about it. Do I not? Okay.
No, I just mean like it's a dumb annotation.
It's so dumb. They talk about the 2012 stuff, and somebody was like, I don't think that's what Ye was talking about. And the very nice editor that wrote it was just like, I think that is what he was talking about. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. It just responded like John 1515 is like, I don't think he is referencing the cousin that stole from him. I think it's just a blanket statement referring to his cousins that stole to get by. It would go along with the theme of the song. And the person responded with, I disagree, but I'm open to seeing what others think about this as well.
Kanye's describing like a moment in time a long time ago. The cousin stealing the laptop has nothing to do with that.
No, that's like a
simple. 2012
like present day thing. Yeah, so don't read that like every cousin that stole as like a reference to 2012. It's just this part of the verse is set back in this like late 80s 90s period.
Yeah, right.
In Chicago. And then Ye saying out of all of the Moes, out of all of the folks, so talking about, you know, the two major gangs in the south side of Chicago, saying like, out of all of the people that were Mo's, out of all the people that were folks, after all of the jokes, I'm the one that was chose. Like, Ye has talked in interviews in the past and songs in the past, even in the Drink Champs interview, about how he was kind of an aberration when it came to Chicago in terms of like not being affiliated, like needing his friends to kind of protect him in some ways, like getting into some situations that he only got out of because he was like giving haircuts or could make beats. What was it? It was like him and GLC. Like GLC initially was going to like go over and beat up Kanye until he realized that they both liked the same music, and then they became friends.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it was either GLC or Rhymefest, one of the two. But there was like tension there at first until Ye found a way out of it. So it's like he's essentially just saying like, I was made fun of back then for my interest in like clothes and arts and like my ambition, but out of it, like everybody that felt more confident than me, not felt more confident than me, but all the people that like made fun of me or like had more than me, was doing more than me, like I'm the one that was chosen to like have the success that I've had. Look where I got to. So he's just kind of differentiating himself in ways, but I think he's differentiating himself in order to connect with people. He's not rubbing it in their face like ha 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 ha, but like, hey, look, like I was chosen to lead, like, and it's because I wasn't necessarily affiliated. I was a pure soul. So like, here, let's go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like that's the whole point. Like, it's not separating himself in this egotistical way, but like somebody had to be different. Somebody had to be a pure soul. Somebody had to like transcend this this differentiating or this like transcend the status quo of division would have been better.
Yeah, division. Yep.
Like I wasn't part of that. Like I just wanted to like be my own person and rise above that, and like he's looking around at this environment and like describing like the way he grew up. Like all of these people, like they all came from the same area. They all came from the same lifestyle. Like they're all brothers. They could all like aspire for more. And Kanye's just saying like, I went above all that. Like joke about me all you want. Like I just stayed on my grind and like, look at me. I'm the one that was chose.
Yeah. I found all of the success. So I'm gonna, listen when I say some things now.
Yeah.
And then he goes from that to all of my friends love to gangbang, which is just like, I have a lot of friends that are affiliated, right? Mm-hmm. Like they all kind of like have that background, came up from that, which is something Ye talked about in the Drink Champs interview. Like people think I'm not like from that life, but like all of my friends were like affiliated. All my friends were gangbangers, like, which is what he gets into in the next line. Like, how we in my car and you say we ain't in the same lane. Like, we're in my car, like driving together, and you're saying like I'm not in your lane. Like I'm not. Like what? Mm-hmm. Like, no, we're cut from the same cloth. There's similarities between us. Like where you're seeing differences, I'm seeing like what unites us, which is getting at some of the stuff you're saying in terms of like, this shouldn't be about division. It should be about what we all share in common.
Right. And it's really getting at something bigger than just like Mo's and folks and just the specific setting he grew up in. Like he's going to be talking about Drake pretty clearly soon. So I feel like a lot of that language is broader in that way, that like we all grew up like wanting to like be something more, to become something more than who we are. Like we all want to achieve something great. And so like, how are we in the same car and you say we in the same lane? Like, let's not pretend that like we don't come from the same place, that I wasn't an inspiration, that I didn't like guide people. Like, let's just all move towards the end goal. Like, let's all be on the same page.
Yeah. Like stop trying to take away from my like history and my background. Like, and there was some stuff with, you could look at it as people like questioning like Ye's like Chicago credentials. You could look at it as people questioning like like Ye's hood credentials. Like I remember seeing like a lot of that coming up, especially in some of the Drake beef from 2018 into 2021. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm still from Chicago, you know, like I grew up in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. You can't take that away from me just because I've found the success that I currently have and have the like monetary value that I still have. Which I think is also just a response to like people trying to say that like Kanye's not black anymore, which, you know, there was that horrible article written by Ta-Nehisi Coates in 2018 that was saying that, which Kanye even referenced in the Drink Champs interview as well. So it's just kind of like him redefining himself and reminding people as well as like where he comes from.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so how are you in my car and you say we ain't in the same lane? I do kind of like in Drive Slow that we were in Molly's car the whole time, and now we're in like Ye's car. When we both had Pellies on and we was scamming for the prom before Chief Keef was Bang Bang, which, you know, this again like contextualizes that we're in the past tense, right? We both had Pellies on and we was scamming for the prom before Chief Keef was Bang Bang. So this is like way before people were talking about like Chief Keef, before he was on. Like we was just like looking for prom dates, right? Mm-hmm. We're back just like high school kids doing our thing.
Right.
But again, gets at what you're saying about like we're not different. Like we were doing the same things, we're from the same place, like
yeah.
And then he declares that with like always had mob ties. Like I've always been like, people didn't think I did, like they thought I was just like this backpack kid that was unaffiliated from Chicago, but all my friends gangbang. Like I grew up with like the Moes and the Folks. Like I've always had these mob ties, which fittingly Drake has a song called Mob Ties, which has in the chorus, like in the verse, it's just like sick of these guys, hire some help, get rid of these guys, sick of this, move to the Ritz.
Wonder who he's talking about.
Yeah, this was on Scorpion, the 2018 album. And the chorus is, I fuck with the mob and I got ties, knock you off to pay their ties. They want me gone but don't know why. It's too late for all that lovey-dovey shit. I'm your brother shit, all that other shit. It's too late for all of that. It's too late for all of that. It's too late for all of that. Which like Ye at this time had been saying things like, oh, you know, I'm not like in the middle of this beef between Drake and Pusha T. Like it's all love. Like this is dead. He was trying to make amends like publicly on Twitter. I think he even said some things in interviews like he never meant anything. So Drake is kind of like coming at it from a little bit of like, yeah, don't try to play nice anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like, and then mentioning the mob ties seem like tough.
Right.
Like I'm affiliated. Like, don't you forget about like I'm connected with J Prince. I have like my Toronto guys that I'm connected with. So like, don't mess with me. And Ye's like, I also have mob ties. Just a little bit of acknowledgement. And in case you're like, oh, that's a little bit of a reach, maybe like Ye references God's Plan just a few lines later. Like,
right.
It's another Drake song. So
yeah. And just like generally talking about him saying like squaring up and sending it up on an album where the only person we've seen him squaring up with is Drake. So like he's clearly the on the other side of the song.
Yeah, and like okay, he made like a couple direct references to Drake songs. Like it's just something that he has done several times now. So it's not subtle at this point. And then stood on my 6 points. How could I not rise? Which, I mean, talking about like there is the other layer, right? So it's kind of a call out to the Drake song, but also saying like always have mob ties. I stood on my 6 points, which is a GD reference, like a Folks reference. And then in the very next line, he says, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, but I'm not 5. Like those 5 things are the principles that are associated with the Black Pea Stones. So like the Moes. So he shouts out something that's for the folks and then shouts out something from the Moes and is just saying like, I stood on the 6 points. How could I not rise? And then like, I'm on my 5 principles, but you're saying I'm not 5. Like, so he's just kind of accepting both the main core beliefs of the Moes and the folks and like shouting out both of them, which is very pure of him, not picking sides.
Don't you think he could also be saying though, like, but I'm not 5, like I'm not part of that group. I don't have to be part of that group to live by these values.
I mean, yes. Yeah. There's kind of a duality to that, right? You could read it as given the, how could I not rise being rhetorical? You could read, but I'm not 5 as being rhetorical in the same way. Or you could just read it as like, statement. How could I not rise as a statement but I'm not 5 as statement, which could be like I do lean more towards folks than Moes, or just saying like what the folks and Moes both believe transcends like being affiliated with either group.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you phrase it. I hadn't really thought of it being a rhetorical question. That definitely is more pure Solis,
Right. Like I love both of these ideologies, but regardless, he's shouting both of them out and kind of looking at the fact that there's probably a little bit of a connection between them. Like the 6 points for the folks are love, life, loyalty, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Is that really that different from love, truth, peace, freedom, justice?
Right.
So just kind of getting at some of the similarities that exist as well. And then with stood on my 6 points, how can I not rise, has a similar construction. Like it was reminding me of I wonder, and specifically like I'm a star, how could I not shine, which we talked about. I wonder, like just graduation, like in total being such like a Chicago based album. With like the middle portion, Ye kind of gets away from Chicago before trying to come back to it at the end and being told you can't come back home again. But I Wonder is really a song that's like about leaving Chicago and like what Chicago means to him and has meant to him. So could just be coincidence, but could be like a nice little nod to I Wonder and the success story that is graduation.
Yeah.
And then we get South Side, this South Side, and we outside, which is such a declaration of like, I'm in the South Side of Chicago. And instead of being concerned about being outside because you don't know what's going to happen, like, is one gang upset with me? Is the other gang upset with me? Like, what's going on? Should I be fearful? It's just like, no, we're outside in the South Side of Chicago, not having to worry about anything happening, because we're transcending like the beefs, the affiliations, like we're pure. Like there's something like I'm a leader here and we're able to safely stand in the South Side of Chicago because of everything that like I represent, because of like all the things that I've done for people here, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like quite the declaration. It's not just saying like, I love the South Side of Chicago. It's like, I can stand outside in the South Side and be completely fine. It's a flex.
Yeah. It's also a response to Drake, who on Laugh Now, Cry Later says like, we took a trip and now we on your block and it's like a ghost town, baby. Just like this idea that either Kanye isn't outside, like he's not with the people, or that like nobody is, like, your town isn't as relevant as mine. So I guess it's a response to that. Like, not only am I outside with everybody, everybody else is outside too. Like, this is a place bustling with activity and like I'm part of it.
And what Ghost Town had just come out a couple years ago. Like Laugh Now, Cry Later came out in 2020. And it's like, 2018, Ye released Ghost Town. So just one of the little subs that Kanye talked about in Drink Champs, where like Drake just does these really like, it's never direct. It's just such like a cat and mouse game of like, was he talking about me? But then you know it, but not everybody else will know it. Right. And that's one of those things. Yeah. So you get the mob ties, you get him calling out the Laugh Now, Cry Later, being like, yeah, we're outside, and like I'm here and can be here. And then for all the guys that went, I just want to note that I think like the South Side and We Outside declaration is such a big moment on the album in terms of just like everything. Like it feels very expository. It feels very joyous. It feels very much like Ye getting back to his roots, getting back to like his past. We know how much he associates Chicago with his mom, given the third listening party. Like he brought the listening party back to Chicago and said how he brought his mom back to Chicago. Like there's just something very, I think, relevant and important to that declaration and how many times he repeats it.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's a very cathartic line.
And for all the guys that went to the White House and said, free the old man. So just essentially like, this is for everybody that told him like, you know, try to get Larry Hoover out of jail, which is confirming in some ways the theory that people had that Ye like just went to meet with Trump as a shot to try to get Larry Hoover out of jail. Like, yeah, he likes Trump. He wanted to probably just meet with Trump just to do it. But also at the same time, like, could he get Larry Hoover out of jail? Like, was this an opportunity to like talk to a president that liked Kanye and try to get him to finally make this happen? And it didn't work, but he at least tried, you know?
Yeah, somebody, I mean, again, living his truth, like he's going to the White House to do this thing for the greater good. He's not picking sides. It's freeing Larry Hoover would have been like a symbol of hope for everybody. So,
yeah. And like Larry Hoover Jr. on Jesus Lord even says, like, you're not the only person that could have tried to do that, but you were the person that tried to do it.
Yeah.
So, and he says, every day I put my life on the line to feed the whole clan, which is what you're saying, right? Like, I'm trying to do something that's going to help everybody. And that's what I've been doing this whole time. Everything that I do is trying to, like, make it better for everybody else, which I think is an indirect response to Roddy Ricch as well. Like, when Ye was pissing on the Grammy, it wasn't just devaluing the Grammys, but he's trying to pressure the Grammys. He's trying to evolve the Grammys. He's trying to make something happen that may devalue Roddy Ricch winning a Grammy right now, but makes it better for Roddy Ricch and everybody else in the future.
Right.
And then he often talks about like putting his life on the line when he's like standing up to these corporate entities, right? When he's standing up to Vivendi, when he's standing up to like society and like the perception that society has on a topic. He's talked about how they came for Michael, they came for Prince. He talked in the Drink Champs interview about how they might come for him. So he's like very serious about like putting his life on the line when he's doing this stuff. And then personal worth is not what a person is worth. So even though Ye is like worth over 6 billion, I think he was saying like he's approaching 9 billion. Or is at 9 billion, like that's not his value as a person. That's just the money that he has. He needs to be doing like good in the world, right? Like he can't sit back and say I'm a good person because I have $9 billion. Yeah, it's right. Like, no. Like my value derives from what I'm able to do for others and for society.
Yeah, which is giving everybody $1.
Yep. Yeah, I can give $1 to every person on Earth, which, you know, there's 7.9 billion people on Earth, Genius notes. And he says, like, man, it's got to be God's plan, which it gets at this idea, like getting away from the Drake references for a second. Like, God must want me to be able to help everybody, right? Like, he's given me the ability to give $1 to every person on this earth. And you can extrapolate that to the metaphor, right? Like he's given me the ability then to try and like make this world better for everybody on Earth, to do something that like provides for everybody on Earth, whether that's like building something, changing society somehow, like whatever impact I'm going to have, it's going to be on like a global scale. Yeah.
I love it. It's such a Kanye way to think that it's such a great line because, you know, it was never making money was never the purpose for Kanye. It was what making that money represented to people and the influence you could have with that money and the people you could put on your payroll with that money. It's all part of this bigger plan. And now that he's reconnected with God, it's a very top down effect. Like everything comes from God. Like all of Kanye's plans, like they're all in the purpose of carrying out God's word and part of this larger mission. And that's what I love about the feel of this part of the song. Like you talk about, the south side of Way Outside and how joyous he feels. And he's referencing Drake here, who's been calling out Kanye for years now. And he has this attitude of like, buddy, like, hey, we're just out here like trying to do good. Like it doesn't matter anymore. He's really just moving past all that negative energy.
Yep. Just feeling like inspired and fueled. Yeah. And the Drake lines, like in the God's Plan music video, Drake goes around giving people money. So it's just like, that's why it's a little bit of a Drake, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge going on there. So you get like a reference to the music video, you get a reference to the song title itself. And then, man, I swear these boys keep playing, we gonna have to square up then. Which, yeah, like having referenced a Drake music video and a Drake song, knowing that he and Drake were at this time, like still kind of beefing, taking some shots at each other. The other Drake's like shots Ye has taken on this album, he's just like, man, if they keep playing, like we gonna have to square up. Like, you put up your dukes, you get ready to fight, which would seemingly go against all the stuff that we've been talking about in terms of like Ye cautioning against like gun violence and retaliation and the cycle of violence and all of that. But it's fitting then that Ye brings like himself to this point of perpetuating that cycle of violence. Like, I will fight you, to then having a play on, we gonna have to send it up then, which, send it up, getting back to Yeezus, is slang for just like, we can fight, we can do this thing right now. And in the chorus of the song Send It Up, it's like, we can send this bitch up, it can go down, we can send this bitch up, it can go down. You have the King Louis verse that's talking about like, call me Elvis, she call me selfish, success got him jealous, like shorty's killing while I'm drilling. I go hard, got a name to prove. Like, he's just kind of like ready to throw down, ready to fight, like doesn't give a fuck. And then you get Kanye kind of like in the club doing his thing. So Send It Up on that song starts to embody just this like life of getting busy, getting like into the thick of things, like I will fight if I have to. Like, it's just a whole attitude of kind of ego and aggression. But Ye kind of bringing back this like send it up attitude, but it's not the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's, we gonna have to send it up. Like, we could fight, but he closes it out with my favorite place to send it. So he's not talking about the the idiom of like sending it up as like we're gonna fight. He's talking about the place, like we're gonna send it up. We're gonna send this to God. We're gonna leave this to God. This feud, this beef that we have, done with it. Like, we're sending it up to the heavens. We're sending it up to God, and God will figure it out for us. It's essentially like Ye saying, I will fight you, but not really. Like, I'm not, like, I'm going to stand up for myself, but like, we're just leaving this in God's hands at the end of the day. And like, I'm completely past trying to like devalue you. I'm completely past like trying to antagonize you or have you antagonize or devalue me. Like, this is all just going up to God, and it's out of our hands. And is it that great?
Yeah. It's almost like the squaring up. Kanye's just talking about a larger fight he is now a part of. Like, I'm not just going to beef with this one guy. Like, this is God's plan. Like, we need to go beyond this, and we need to be fighting for something greater. We need to send it up. It's such a beautiful twist on that phrase, especially knowing that it's used so famously by Kanye on Yeezus in a completely different way. Like, that just makes the line hit really hard.
Yep. And you can even just view square up then as like, come face to face, right? Like, if they're playing, we're gonna have to meet face to face and like work it out. Like, it's going to be something that, like, once we talk it through, once the same way, like, that's what he did with Roddy, right? Like, Roddy called him out, they got together, worked it out, and things are good between them now. See, they're united on a song together and, like, found an understanding. So it's like he brings in this person he had a slight confrontation with, and instead of squaring up on Roddy, they got together and talked, and, like, God worked it out for him.
Yeah. Love it.
So that's what he wants to do with Drake, and now look, he and Drake are friends again. And then we get the bridge. So it ain't how it used to be. This is the new me, so get used to me, which, you know, kind of gets back into all of that, right? Like, I'm no longer trying to, like, fight you. I'm no longer angry about things. Like, whatever was going on between, like, you and I, like, to Drake, like, it's done, it's past. Like, this is the new me, so get used to me. And then you could just take that, extrapolate it to the whole, right?
Right.
Like, people that were mad at me and trying to put me in jail, people that were, like, upset about all this stuff that I was doing, like, things aren't like that anymore, right?
Yeah.
This is the new me. Like, God came through and grabbed my hand. Like, I'm made new again. Like, last night doesn't count. This morning doesn't count. Like, here we go.
Yeah. And let's not forget the album's called Donda, and a huge part of this album is Kanye living up to what his mom expected of him, like carrying out what his mom taught him and becoming somebody who can make a difference in this world, like being that person she always raised him to be. And knowing that songs like Come to Life and No Child Left Behind are coming up, like, this is the new me. Like, I have now graduated. I now know I'm being the person my mom wanted me to be. I am good in the eyes of God. I have become somebody who's moved past so many demons in my life, and now I'm ready for this next stage, which is a huge part of this album, is Kanye moving on from so many tumultuous things in his life, the divorce, just general fallout he's had in society, political ambitions. He's gone on such a journey in this album, and this is the new him. Like, he's new again. We've reached the moment on the album.
Yep. And we're going to have to just get used to it, you know?
Yeah.
And then we get, like, looking in the mirror, it's the truth of me, like, which makes you think of Michael Jackson's The Man in the Mirror, and this encounter, which just philosophers have gotten at for, like, decades, right? Like, being able to look at yourself in the mirror and understand that that's, like, who you are, and really, like, see yourself clearly. So it's just like, yeah, looking in the mirror, it's the truth of me. Like, who I see is who I see. And looking at my kids, it's the proof of me. Like, kids are your legacy, they're your progeny. Like, so there's something about, like, his physical self and then the next generation that he has, like, helped make, like, literally helped make the next generation. And that's the proof that he, like, existed, because they're carrying on his legacy and his name, and that's something that will, like, outlive him.
Yeah. And again, getting at the idea of No Child Left Behind and the people you inspire and who you're fighting for, it's all tied into that.
Yeah, we've talked about, like, the generational, like, theme of this album, and that's why there's so many, like, Donda inspiring Ye, and Ye then inspiring all of these younger artists, but then also his own kids. So all of that's kind of, like, coming full circle. And then Devil Get Behind Me, I'm loose, I'm free. So it's like, yeah, you're not in front of me anymore. Like, get the hell behind me. And, like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling energized. And this is a direct Bible quote as well. Matthew 16, which you have some, like, sections, the demand for a sign, the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah. So Peter makes that declaration. And then Jesus predicts his death. So in that section, we get, from that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and on the third day be raised to life. Peter looked at him aside and began to rebuke him. "Never, Lord," he said, "this shall never happen to you." Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Whew. Like, Peter just got dunked on, right? Like,
yeah, well, he should have speak out of place.
Yeah, and that's like, he's kind of, Jesus is saying, like, this is what's going to happen. And Peter's like, that's never going to happen to you. It's just kind of like wishful. I don't know. It's not concerned about the right things, right? Which is why he says you do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely the human concerns. Like, you're worried about like my life when my life isn't the thing that we're talking about here. So like, stop worrying about such superficial things. Like, stop letting the devil put those thoughts in you. Don't let the devil stand in front of me. Like, the devil's behind me. I'm moving ahead. Like, we got some good stuff to do. And then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done. Truly, I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Okay. But what that's getting at is essentially, like, Ye is positioning himself on this song, really on this album, as kind of a leader for the next generation, right? A leader for the people, a leader for society, and like saying like, devil get behind me, is kind of channeling that same idea of like, you know, take up your cross, like, follow me, I will guide you. Like, I'm going to like be a leader that helps everybody else like find a way. And what good will it be for someone to gain the world yet forfeit their soul? You think back to him talking about a personal worth is not what a person's worth. So Ye is someone that has gained the world in terms of how much money he has amassed. But, you know, what happens if you forfeit your soul to some of these like superficial things, to sin, to the devil? Comes back to Roddy Ricch saying, and I cannot sell my soul at the very beginning. Comes back to the idea of having and maintaining a pure soul. And then what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? And then the Father will like give glory and reward each person based on what they have done. So it's really getting at like your deeds being very important, and being like a leader and helping people being very important, which gets back to everything we were saying about Kanye kind of like trying to raise the banner of saying like, hey, Mose, hey, folks, like, we're united. Like, I'm going to like help you all. I'm going to try to be part of this. Like, what I'm doing for all of you. Like, he's trying to give back. Like, all this stuff is coming full circle, and that Bible portion is very important to it.
Yeah, and the Father, Holy Spirit let loose on me feels like an extension of that. Like, everything you're saying, like, I've moved past the devil. I've moved past all of these things that don't matter. Like, and now I am Father's exclusively. Like, I do everything in the name of you. Like, I am part of this larger mission, and nothing can hold me back.
Yep. And it's like, you know, let loose on me. Like, you know, bring the glory. Give me, like, let me be like your disciple. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to work for you. The devil's behind me, and I'm feeling good. I'm loose. I'm free.
Love it.
Getting that rhyme with exclusively, loose, I'm free. And then Roddy comes back in with, the truth is only what you get away with, huh? I said the truth is only what you get away with, huh? That's why a lot of these guys be faking, huh? So like Ye's saying like, I'm pure, I'm not faking anything. Like, I'm here to help people. I'm here to get over everything with Drake. Like, all these other people need to stop like faking everything and stop trying to get away with things. And, you know, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And then we get Shenseea coming in at the end, which I gotta say, I think the outro is too long.
I feel like that's a pretty widely held belief in the Kanye community these days. It's strange because like I'm listening to it, and the whole song is building and building and building. Like, it feels like it's going to reach this ghost town like climax, you know, where Shake comes on and it's like, oh my God, just throw your arms up. You've just been transported to a different musical reality where like a song can achieve something like this. But the outro of this kind of pulls back a little bit and strips things away, and it's just her voice, and she sounds great. And there is a strange power to it that it's so unclouded by production, like it seems fitting for the song, actually, a song called Pure Souls, to have something that sounds like this at the end. But musically, from like a catchiness standpoint, it does it goes on for like 2 minutes. I don't know. It's a really tough sell. Like, I like it conceptually, but you kind of get bored after 2 minutes of it.
Yeah, somehow the extended glob glow gab galab like ends up hitting, like, feeling less of a drag, which is I hate
it's not a drag at all. That is a great outro.
I'm saying it's less of a drag than this, which is like shocking, because like Shenseea like crushes it. Like, her vocals are great. Like, she's doing like a fantastic job. It's just, for some reason, I don't know if it's just because it's the same like line repeated. I mean, the glob glob's not, he's repeating the same line. I don't know what it is. There's just like something where I just start to feel like a little grinded to a halt midway through this thing.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, I would be interested to ask about anybody who's worked on the production of the song and like how you come to that decision. I mean, like I said, I feel like it has to be a conceptual thing, like the way it sounds, the idea of a pure soul just being free. I don't know. It's, but I agree with you. It never quite gets there.
Well, and it's like, there you have the emphasis on being a pure soul, right? And there's so much celebration in Roddy and Ye, but here it feels like Shenseea's outro is more focused on not the people that have succeeded, but on the people that are trying to get away with something, right? And almost just reminding them, like, the truth is the only thing you can get away with. The truth is the only thing you can get away with. Like, the truth, like...
Yeah, and Roddy Ricch had just said the same line. Like, that's one thing I was wondering, like, we're talking about how Kanye's moving past the Drake beef and talking about sending it up. But in a way, like, is this last part, like, going after Drake a little bit and, like, calling him fake? Or if not calling Drake fake, saying something like, I'm bigger than you. Like, I'm so beyond this version of a person. Like, I have graduated, and any beef you're throwing my way, like, I'm not part of it. And this outro just like is really hitting the nail on the head of that statement.
Yeah, I could see it like both as specific as Drake and then blown up to just like anybody, like all the people that are faking, right? And if you consider Drake at this point of Ye kind of saying like, hey, you're someone that's faking, like, just be honest. Like, the truth is the only thing that you'll eventually be able to get away with, right?
Right.
It's essentially like chastising people that aren't living the truth, that continue to try to like fake things and convince other people of this like false truth. And I think I guess the tone I get is just chastisement and like like trying to get people to come to their senses in that way. And I think you can apply that to Drake, like, hey, stop faking this. Let's just be honest. Like, we want to be friends. You're not as tough as you say you are. Like, come on, let's get over yourself a little bit. But also saying to like some of these like younger artists, other artists, it's kind of like a declaration of like, hey, stop like fronting in the way that you have. Like, you need to start being more honest with like the people, with yourself, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that you're going to get away with.
Yeah. I guess the other thing to remember is I feel like this whole outro, maybe it's less of like Shenseea speaking to the community or an extension of Kanye speaking to the world. Like, you can't keep doing this, but there is the line like, they can never hide from you, which makes it seem like she's talking to God directly. So like, the end could just be this proclamation of this ideology Kanye has now adopted and is like shouting to the heavens and like declaring like, this is how I'm living my life from now on.
Yeah, and we should note there is that change. Like, I think we kind of danced around it, but like, we got Roddy Ricch saying the truth is the only thing, or the truth is only what you get away with.
Right.
Is what he initially said. So, you know, whatever you get away with is the truth. And then Shenseea is saying the truth is the only thing you get away with. Mm-hmm. So that idea of being able to get away with falseness is tossed aside.
Right.
So anyone that's living the false life is going to get caught at the end of the day. And like, God will see that, like the public will see that. Like, she says he can see it bird's eye view. They can never hide from you, which is what you're saying. So he know every side of you don't shine through, which like the public may not know that, but God knows that. So there is this like, I guess, kind of like come to God moment. Like, you're not going to be able to fake everything for forever, which even makes me think of the Heaven and Hell video, which you and I haven't talked about yet. But in that Heaven and Hell video, you have everybody living they're wearing like the black masks and the black gloves and the black hoodies and outfits. Everybody's faceless and they all look the same. They're in this like dark city. And then there's suddenly this like burst of spiritual like light and rapture, and these souls are swirling around. And it kind of makes me think of that in some ways. Like, the people that aren't living the truth are going to be essentially like not raptured, and then like the pure souls will like be brought up. So it's like, you're not going to get away with like lying.
Yeah, no, I actually, I still haven't watched that music video, so we're not going to be able to talk about it today. Maybe tomorrow.
You said you would. You lied to me.
I know. Too busy.
This hurts.
Got to edit these episodes, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Television episode is going to edit itself.
The more I keep talking, the more work that you have to do. But I think that's how I'd take like the conclusion. A little bit of chastisement. A little bit of seriousness. Like, you have Ye and Roddy Ricch, who are essentially like embodied, like living by their truth and telling the truth. And then you have Shenseea like warning people like, hey, you need to get on this level. You need to stop trying to get away with things, because the truth is all that matters.
Yep. Completely agree. Well, and even though like it isn't like my favorite thing to listen to, like, it's still a very beautiful ending. You're right. Her voice is great. Like, there is a power to it. It's probably just how long it goes on. Yep.
So, and then that you're always so excited just to get to come to life, you know?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, you do want to skip and just get to come to life, don't you?
Which I never do skip.
Never.
But
never.
I can't say my finger hasn't hovered over the button.
You've thought about committing that sin.
But I know I never get away with it. You know, I can never look at people and be like, I never skip the outros. Like, the truth would come to light one day.
Yeah. And then when the truth comes to light, you come to life. Wow.
Piano. Anyway.
We have a special guest for the next episode, right?
Oh, yeah, we do. Good old Cole Kushna from the Dissect podcast will be joining us.
See, and you wouldn't have known that unless you made it to the very end of the episode. So if you've made it this far, congratulations.
Surprise.
Oh, yeah, but until Cole comes down here, we need you to stay wavy and all that jazz.